Good morning, everybody. So today my update is all about greylisting and the Financial Action Task Force. There's been a bit of movement this week. So they published the latest update on South Africa on the 23rd of February. It was also discussed in the budget last week, but I thought we could look at all the happenings that we have heard about in the last few days, just to give you an idea of how seriously the FSCA and National Treasury is taking this greylisting. So when the FATF greylisted South Africa at its Feb 2023 plenary meetings, they adopted a jointly agreed action plan. There were 22 action items linked to the strategic deficiencies that was identified in this report that they gave us in the AML and CFT regime. And we are required as South Africa to address all 22 of these deficiencies to exit the FATF grey list. They then gave us deadlines for addressing these action items, and these deadlines fall between Jan of 2024 until January 2025. And if we have been assessed to have largely addressed all 22 of these action items in February 2025, we might be taken off the grey list at the April-May 2025 plenary. So during the 23 February plenary, they adopted a report confirming that 5 of these 22 action items are now completely addressed or largely addressed. These relate to the legal provision criminalizing terrorist financing and underpinning SA's targeted financial sanction regimes. So of the 22 action items, 5 have been addressed. They also then considered the 2 further action items that were previously not addressed have now been addressed. And this confirms that 14 out of the 17 outstanding action items have now been partly addressed. So they're getting to it. 3 have not been addressed yet. And the deadline to address the last 4 is actually May 2024. So they still have a little bit of work to do. National Treasury did note, though, that while we are on track to address the outstanding action items, it remains a tough challenge to address all 17 by February next year. And all relevant agencies and authorities will need to continue to demonstrate significant improvements, and also for such improvements that need to be sustained, not just implemented. But the FSCA is doing its part to address this. So in the last week, we have heard from Nici Macdonald, who is in charge of the FSCA, and he said that they are doing their part by taking on more staff and investigations as part of a crackdown on money laundering and terrorism financing after criticism from National Treasury and the FATF. So they have tripled their budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year to finance the expansion. And in the last 2 financial years, the FSCA has more than doubled its supervisory capacity and expects another doubling for the next financial year, Kamlana said to MoneyWeb. So they were at 7 and will probably end up with 36 personnel in the supervisory department by 2025. And we can see the outcomes of this in the notices that were actioned by the FSCA this week. You would have seen that Ashburton fund managers were penalized with an amount of 16 million administrative penalty for violating provisions of the Financial Intelligence Centre Act that resulted in the FSCA imposing this fine on them. So 10 million of this imposed penalty has to be paid right now, and the remaining 6 million will be suspended for 3 years if Ashburton can prove that they have actually implemented requirements to ensure that this does not happen again. So the reason why they were penalized with this enormous amount is that there were lapses in the fund manager's compliance with the FIC Act during its ongoing supervisory activities between October and November 2023. Some of the issues that they found were that there were no monitoring of complex or unusually large transactions and unusual patterns of transactions, customer due diligence, specifically where there were suspicious or unusual transactions involved, were not performed properly. risk management and compliance program wasn't implemented properly, terminating existing business relationships wasn't dealt with, and determining when a transaction or activity is reportable to the FIC had certain problems. So it is really clear that the FSPs and your representatives and KIs have to be very aware that the FSCA is cracking down in terms of the regulations, and I can see that there will be some more of these issues that we will see in the next month or so. So just another notice, annual refresher, we still have the one in Johannesburg coming up on Tuesday, in person in Midrand, and then also an online one later in March. So if you want to join us for that, please register. We would love to see you there. After the one in Johannesburg, there will also be a little bit of a networking session where we can have a chat and a cold beverage and just catch up on seeing everybody. So thank you very much.